What's up YouTube, and welcome back to another Infinite Painter tutorial. Now that doesn't mean that necessarily you couldn't create this in any digital art app. A lot of the sort of principles of today's design are pretty straightforward and simple, so maybe you could do it in an app of your choice. Anyway, if you are an Infinite Painter user, you can follow along with the exact same colors because I will have provided a link to the palette in the description down below, so you can grab the actual file and the correct colors that I'm using in the tutorial. If you are using a different app, you'll just need to download the image of the palette and then you can add the colors into your app of choice. Everything else is built into Infinite Painter, so you won't need anything else. If you enjoy these types of tutorials, make sure to subscribe for more content. But if you want to go ahead and get early access to my tutorials as well as support the channel, you can hit the join button down below and become a member of the channel. You also get a loyalty badge beside your name that grows over time as well. Anyway, with all that said, enjoy today's tutorial and let's get started. So of course, we're going to go ahead and create a canvas size that is 2000 by 2000 and then hit create. Now, of course, you're going to want to go ahead and use the palette that I've provided for today with the correct colors. So we go to the palette option here, just go to the three dots and go to open and then tap on the palette 51 YouTube and then you'll have the correct colors. Let's then go ahead and switch back to the disk view just so we're all looking at the same thing. And we're going to go ahead and I just need to go to my create options and go to perspective and the option of grid. If you don't see these dots, turn on your magnet on and off until you see them and then just drag it into the bottom right corner as best you can. And then you should end up with a 4x4 grid, exactly the same as me. And we can go ahead and match up accordingly. Now I'm going to tap on the magnet for a minute just to turn it off. I'm going to go to my brush and make sure under calligraphy we are using the monoline brush. And we can set the size to anything kind of small just for a minute, say 20. And if you go to your colors, we want to be using the third color there in the palette, so this one here. And then we go to our tools. We're going to tap on our tools and we're going to go ahead and use the circle tool here. Now what you want to do is you want to sort of tap as best you can in the center there and drag out until you get a circle and it's just about sort of touching the edges almost. Just shy of it anyway. And then when you're done, just tap on your circle tool when you're done. Go to your tools and go to fill, tools and fill, and tap and drag to the right and then do it again because then you do it, when you tap and drag to the right, you increase the threshold and the amount of color that we add in. And then hitting the tick, you can then go ahead and make sure there's no fuzzy line around the outside. The next stage is to then go ahead and add in some land down here. You can continue with the monoline brush, perfectly fine brush to do this with. And you want to make sure, of course, you're still on the layer that is what I'm going to refer to as your frame. That circle is your frame. We're going to want to start off roughly, say, down here and just create a nice bumpy, lumpy kind of landscape. Look at my grid. And then you can see I've gone in from here and then out from there, meaning I can go to tools and fill and then tap and drag to the right twice as always and hit the tick when we're done. And then we want to go ahead and create sort of the space in which our castle is going to sit on. So what I'm going to do is just for a minute, I'm going to go ahead and just find a point and draw in a line across and hold my pen down and just sort of drag it out to around about, say, here. So let's make sure that's a straight line. Let's do that again. Hold down out to here and let go. It's fine. It doesn't need to be perfectly straight. And then if we tap away, you can just go ahead and create like a cliff-like shape here all the way down. And then from there, again, go to your tools, fill, and tap and drag to the right twice and hit the tick. We're going to go ahead and add in our tree and then our castle, and then we can go ahead and just tidy this layer up a little bit more. So let's go to our brush. Let's go to the option of soft taper under calligraphy. And if you set your size a little bit smaller than what I've got there, let's go down to 30 just to start with. We want to draw in a tree. If you don't have pressure sensitivity, you're going to have to change your brush size more than I'm doing, for example. I start at the very top here and I'm just going to create the main tree trunk. That's like my kind of guide almost. And then I can go down it again and then just get slightly wider as I get all the way down towards the bottom. I can manually fill it in or I could use the fill tool. Either, it honestly doesn't really matter. Now I'm going to go ahead and create a little branch off from there. And I'm going to create another sort of main branch off like here. And you always want to make sure, of course, that your tree trunk or your main avenues of your tree get chunkier towards the bottom. You of course want to have it wider at the bottom. It always gets thinner, of course, towards the top. So a couple more sort of little bumps and lumps in the tree, and then maybe even like a little sort of squiggle or something over here to really widen it up. And then from there, just set your brush size even smaller. Let's go down to say like 13. and then you can create new additional sort of avenues for the tree. And if you've got pressure sensitivity, you can sort of get a little bit lighter towards the end and make it a little bit thinner as you go. But this brush should allow you to get some really nice thin tapered lines right on the end. A taper is the end of the line gets a little bit sharper and pointier and thinner. Now, you don't really honestly need to stress too much about the tree, because you can just create sort of branches, etc., all going off from any direction, and just let them all just run away. And then on the ends of them, you can add in newer ones. And of course, as you get towards the ends of some of these branches, you're going to want to try and think about, hang on, if I don't have pressure sensitivity, I'm going to have to go ahead and lower my brush size again, just to make sure the very ends of these branches are all nice and thin, because you want to have it all sort of get thinner as, of course, as it gets further away. And the thing with branches and trees, a lot of the time people draw them as flat things, and you don't have branches overlapping each other and just running in behind one another. It's really important that you learn to sort of drop that and carry on and just layer things in and really let things go wild. Trees grow in, a 3D space, not a flat space. So it's really important to remember to, draw things overlapping. And you can get quite stylish with it if you want to, like that. You don't have to have these little end branches connect necessarily. You can have these like smaller sort of branches, etc., just kind of flowing off from there. They don't necessarily need to be connected. And if anything, they might look quite cool towards like the outer edges if you can repeat them quite frequently. And don't be afraid to do some that are connected and some that are not. It will just look quite nice. It will look like a little bit of sort of greenery to this space. And to be honest, my tree there is looking pretty good. I'm not going to necessarily add in too much. That's roughly the shape that we want to add in. So I'm going to leave mine exactly there. Feel free to, of course, pause the video if you need to. We're going to go ahead and move on to the castle. Let's hit the 3 dots though and hit save, as always, just to give the app a chance to catch up. Let's go ahead then and go to our create tools and go to the option of symmetry and vertical. Now mine is locked. If I go to my settings here, I need to tap on symmetry and turn off the lock, which allows me to then move it. I need to move it to roughly around about here, and then I can hit the lock. So this additional line is my symmetry line. Now, if you need to, just turn off your visibility here of your grid. Keep it though, but just go ahead and tap on the eye there. And now what's going to happen is what we do on one side of that line will be reflected on the other. It's a really cool trick. And then you want to go to your brush. Let's go back to the option of the monoline brush. Let's set the size a bit smaller than what we had it before, maybe down to say something around about an 8. And then we're going to go ahead and draw in our castle. So I'm going to go ahead and just make it a little bit wider. I'm not fussed necessarily right now about what this looks like fully. We're trying to draw in a silhouette, so I'm just drawing in a straight line up, or as best as I can. It doesn't really matter if it's slightly skewed. And then you can just draw in the sort of columns here on the ends. I'm trying to draw in a straight line and then hold my pen down at the end so I can get it to kind of snap. And then from there, we'll go ahead and just draw in like a straight line across the 2 of them, like so. And then from there, we'll go ahead and draw in like a straight line up and a straight line up. In a minute, I will zoom out for you so you can see exactly what it is I've drawn up until this point. But you can just about work out that I'm trying to do these kind of like staggered tiers to the building. And then I'm going to go ahead and just tap away and then draw in some more straight lines. Honestly, don't stress about it in terms of getting absolutely perfect straight lines. It's really not necessary to do so. Then I'm going to draw in a curve and hold my pen down and then tap away and undo that. And then we'll draw in another curved line here for the points and these cone-like shapes at the top of the castle. And of course, it's been duplicated on the opposite side. Then in the middle, you want to try and sort of get your central kind of point before we add in any other accessories. So I'm going to draw in like another kind of pointed castle point, like say here. And then I'm going to tap away and I'll undo that. And then let's go ahead and draw in like a straight line down and then draw in another kind of curve-like shape outwards, say like to here. And then another straight line, tap there, it doesn't matter. Straight line down. And then we'll draw in a curve underneath that. And then you can go ahead and honestly create any kind of shape you want here. I could draw in a straight line across and then straight line down. every time I've drawn this, I have gone ahead and drawn it slightly different every single time. It's just fun to come up with different sort of random creations of a castle that you can come up with, which I think is even more fun because it's just how whatever you want to create for your castle silhouette. And all you want to do is just make sure you have these kind of tiers in it and it will look really cool. And then I'm going to go ahead and curve it in one more time, I think. And then I'll draw in a straight line down or as best as I can. That's fine. And then what I'll do is just temporarily, we'll go ahead and link these up like so. So everything now should all be connected. So I can go to my tools, go to fill, and then tap and drag to the right in each one of these. Again, do it a couple of times, of course, every single time. And just drag to the right. And then you should have your sort of main silhouette starting to come through. And then you can go ahead and simply honestly keep creating as much content as you like. You can just create blocky shapes. You can create like interesting sort of fort-like interesting characteristics and swipe and drag to the right in all of those areas just to fill them in using the fill tool as I've already shown you. From there, zoom out. That's looking pretty cool. Except the other thing we can go ahead and do is just make this a little bit wider. It will always look kind of better to do so. So let's go ahead and just create like let's create a block outwards and pop one finger on the screen if we can, just to get a straight line. Usually it will snap, but you can also pop a finger if need to be. And then from there, you can go ahead and draw in another straight line down. And let's just triple check. And then I'm going to go ahead and add in, say, like another one a little bit further down. I'm just going to draw in a horizontal line again, and then another straight line down. And there we go. And then from there, just sort of block out these shapes a little bit. All of these little sort of overhangs look really cool and match up to that kind of castle aesthetic. But again, it's kind of like a fantasy castle today. You don't need to, I mean, by all means, actually, that's a good idea if you want to, base it on a real castle. But have fun creating your own. Tapping and dragging to the right to fill in those spaces. Got an interesting castle shape going on there. I think there's a couple more things I could maybe do. For example, I'm probably going to block this out a little bit more, make that a little bit more interesting. And then at this point, you can make a decision on what you want to do. For example, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tap on the symmetry and turn it off. Because I'm going to go ahead and draw in like a bit of land here on the left-hand side and then go to my fill tool, tap and drag to the right and fill it in. So it looks like the castle is on that hillside. And to be honest, I'm going to leave my castle like it is. I can always come back to it if I want to later on and add more, but for now, we're going to leave it. So let's 3 dots and save. Let's then go back to our layers. Let's create a new layer now and drag it underneath our layer we were just working on. We're going to go to our colors. We're going to grab then the 4th color in the palette, this one here. And again, using the monoline brush, we're going to just go ahead and simply draw in from all the way out here. So I'm going to draw in as we speak. Now, let's go ahead and turn on our grid again using the eye here so that you can see where I'm positioning things. So I want to start just behind here, just creating like another interesting kind of wobbly like cliff shape down into this kind of gorge here. And then I'm going to go all the way off the screen and also make sure my starting point goes off the screen, because then that will create a perfect loop. For example, if I turn this off, this is what it looks like underneath. And I can go to my tools and fill and tap and drag to the right when I'm on that layer. So let's tap and drag to the right a couple of times. And I can turn on the layer by hitting the eye symbol in the corner. Let's go ahead and then maybe introduce like another kind of shape of like a cliff here into this kind of gorge and go all the way around and just create a loop otherwise. Then go to your fill tool and tap and drag to the right just to fill it in and hit the tick. Let's create a new layer, drag it underneath that one. Let's then go to our colors and grab the 5th color on that top row. And in a similar fashion, we're going to go ahead and draw in another kind of cliff-like shape here. Make this one look a little bit different if you can. And perhaps this one just runs across. And I'm going to go all the way off to the right-hand side and drag that all the way off to the right-hand side again. Tools, fill, and tap and drag to the right and hit the tick. You could potentially add in another smaller one like in behind here, but we might have to get rid of this in a second. So I'll just create a small one like so, and then fill and tap and drag to the right and hit the tick when I'm done. And I'll hit the 3 dots and save. Let's then add in the water. So let's create a new layer and drag it underneath again. Let's then go to our brush. Let's go to the option of fills and we'll go to the solid fill brush. We can go ahead and go to our color and grab the dark tone again. So it's the 3rd color in the palette. I'm going to go to my tools. I'm going to go to shapes and rectangle. And now when I do this, it should fill in the rectangle. Now I'm going to start roughly here and go all the way across the screen like so. So that's my rectangle, and I can tap on the rectangle when I'm done. And that's our water in the background. Nice little sort of area. We can still glimpse the ocean. Now from there, I'm going to go ahead and create a new layer and drag it underneath that again. And we're going to go to our tools, fill, and then we're going to go to our color, and we're going to change it. We're going to go ahead and grab the second color in the palette, and then once you've selected it, just tap to fill the whole screen and hit the tick when you're done. So we've got a layer now, which is going to be our sky. We're going to go to our brush. Let's go to the option of sprayers, and we're going to use the soft airbrush. We're going to go to our opacity sliders and flow. You can see mine are a little bit lower than normal. And then we're going to go to our color. I'm going to grab the first color in the palette. Then let's go to our brush again, just triple checking it's a soft brush. It is. And the size is huge. It's 1000. And what I want you to do is just go lightly across your horizon here and just adding in a bit of a blend of some blue there in the distance. Now, mine is a little bit lighter than perhaps it shows on camera. So just be more on the sort of, you want to be a bit scarce with it. Don't add too much. Then go to your colors and grab the third color in the palette. Now, I urge you at this point just to create a new layer for this step, because we're going to go ahead and just go round the top edge really, really lightly and create a light tone. It's really important that you do it lightly. If you struggle with pressure or you don't have pressure sensitivity, bring your opacity really, really low and build up the color bit by bit. If I press really firm, we're going to end up with this horrible dark color, and that's not what we want. We want just a sort of little bit of darkness up there, but blend it across. We don't want to lose our tree too much, and we also want to have a bit of a curve to it. This is our night sky up here, and we don't want it to be too dark. Now what I've done is I've done it overly dark, because the other version you can do is you can tap on the layer and bring its opacity down. And if I bring mine down to around about, say, 75%, yours may vary, of course, depending on what you've drawn. It just helps us get the right effect that we need. Now I'm going to tap on this layer when I'm ready, and I'm going to hit the option of merge, which merges it down to the layer below. And now that's all on one layer. Now, just while we're working on this gradient, let's tap on it and duplicate it. Let's then drag one of them in front of the block that we created for our water. Tap on the layer and use this option here of clip. We're going to clip it to the shape underneath. Then if we go ahead and go to our tools, if we go to edit, we want to go to transform and basic. Let's go ahead and just rotate it so it's upside down. So rotate it, keep going, and then there you go. And then you should be able to also tap on this option here and change it to distort. And then you can grab the top middle node and shrink it down. And we're looking at the reflection here in the water at the bottom. Now, I don't want you to make it like this, where these two blues blend together. We want to have the water slightly darker and bring that up a tiny bit as well. So you want to try and find a point roughly like this, and then hit the tick when you're done. And now your water has a bit of a gradient in it that matches the sky, but also you have that separation for the horizon. Let's then hit our three dots and save again. Let's go down to our background, so our gradient here in the back. Let's create a new layer. Let's go to our colors and let's just drag it into the top left to select white. If you go to your brush, we want to go ahead and add in some stars. Now for me, I typically go to the category of glow and either use the light pen or neon pen. I'm going to use the light pen, and all you want to do is just tap to add a star, and you can vary your size. For example, I've got mine set to 125. Now that is quite small at the minute, but you can go around in kind of a circle and create larger dots like so. So you do have the option here, even though our brush is maxed out, to add in some slightly larger stars if needs be. Be a little bit scarce with it, and it's really important that you continue to just make sure that you add circles and dots, not lines. So all I'm doing is I'm just going to fill in a basic amount of coverage to the entirety of the sky. As I get further down towards the ocean layer there, I'm going to make sure that the stars are quite scarce and small. I don't want there to be too many large ones down there. And then as I make my way further up, we can add in more stars, especially towards the top. And stars, when you do them like this, especially when they're simple and straightforward and just little dots in the sky, a lot of the time there's a trick that you can do. Well, it's not a trick, it's just a method that you can do that I typically do all the time with like sort of these scenes. So let me just very quickly just keep adding in some very small stars here by just tapping like crazy. adding them in. And then when you're done, tap on the layer, duplicate it, go to your tools, edit, and go to basic transform, and then just scale it down using the bottom right corner and then move that up into the top left, hit the tick, then tap on that layer and duplicate it, go to your tools, edit, and basic transform again, and just move this version across up here to the right hand side, and just keep repeating, hit the tick, tap on the layer, duplicate it, grab your tools, edit, basic transform, and again move that up towards, say, like there. You can scale it down again if you want to get even finer amount of stars, and then just keep duplicating the layer. So you basically give yourself a big print, and then you can just go ahead and just position them anywhere you want. So hit the tick all the way across your sky until you end up with something like this. And when you're happy, just tap on them and merge down. Tap, merge, tap, merge, tap, merge until all of your stars are on one layer. Let's then go ahead and create a new layer. Let's go to our brush and make sure we change it back to the option of fills and solid fill. We're going to go to our tools. We're going to go to shapes and circle again. And then where we have this kind of cross point here of our sky, we're going to go ahead and drag out from there, creating a moon, roughly to say this kind of scale. And then tap on your circle tool when you're done. Then tap on the layer, duplicate it. And then if we bring them out for a minute, the bottom one out the two, so turn them both off and you'll know where you are then. So if I turn on the bottom one out the two, if I tap on the layer and change its blend mode from normal to the option of linear dodge, I'll tap away, nothing will have changed yet. Then turn on the top one and tap on that and change its blend mode from normal to the option of overlay. Now, nothing again has changed, but if we go to the linear dodge version and we go to our edit and we go to the option of edit and filters, if we go to the option of structure and blur, tap on it and then blur this out. And then eventually, when you get to 100%, your moon should end up with a little bit of a blue-like color around the outside, and you'll end up also with a glow to your moon as well. Now you can go ahead and go back to edit and then the option of filters and structure and blur again. And you could blur this out a tiny bit more. You don't want to do too much, but maybe another 85% and hit the tick. Now I know that sometimes there's a bug with this app and sometimes you can't go say higher than 60%. The number is random, don't stress. Just go ahead and simply, for example, even if it's 50, just blur it 50 and repeat. Blur it 50 and repeat. Blur it 50 and repeat. So on my second one then, I'm going to go up to about 80% and hit the tick. You just need to keep going until you end up with a soft glow around the outside and your moon has this kind of bluish glow on the outer edge. And there you've matched up correctly. Then what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to tap on the overlay one for a minute, tap on it and duplicate it. Then drag it above our gradient there that is clipped to the water, and then tap on that and clip it too. Tap on it and change its blend mode back from normal to the option of from overlay to normal, should I say. Tap away, and then on that layer, go to your tools, edit, basic transform, and drag it down, and then you won't be able to see it until it appears in the water below. And then hit the tick when you're done. Then we'll go to our tools, we'll go to edit, we'll go to edit and filters. We're going to drag down until we can see some of the different options. And we want the option down here, bottom left, of motion and direction. Tap on it. And then you're going to want to go ahead and change the angle. So you just need to rotate on your screen. So just tap anywhere and just rotate until the beam has now appeared here. There is a straight line beam up and down on your screen, and hit the tick when you're done. And then you've got a nice little reflection. So let's now move into some lighting effects. So let's go ahead and as always hit the three dots and save. Let's then go right to the top of our layers and create a new layer. So hit the plus. You then want to tap on this layer and change its blend mode from normal to the option of linear dodge. And tap away. And then tap on this layer and clip it to your frame at the top here. If you go to your brush and change it to the option of sprayers, and we want the soft airbrush. We also want to change our color to the first color in the palette, top left, and your settings there can be around about like mine. And then just go ahead and just go around in a circular motion, just very, very lightly on top of your castle and your tree. So you'll end up giving them a tiny bit of blue glow. That's all we want to do. Really, really subtle, nothing crazy. You can see that kind of gradient effect. Let's then go ahead and create a new layer. It will clip itself automatically, and tap on that layer and change it from normal to the option of linear dodge as well. Go to your brush and change it back to what we had earlier, so calligraphy, and it was the soft taper brush. Let's set the size to say around about 10 just to start with. All you want to do now is just add in some very simple accents to your frame layer here. So for example, I can just run down the edge here and just add in little areas of highlight where the moon is going to be casting a lovely little bit of color on here. And I can just make up random little textures, etc. And you can make your brush size a bit bigger if you want to, but I think the finer size actually looks quite good. So a curve down, some horizontal lines, and then you can decide where the moonlight lands on your scene. And you can go down this edge here, and you can go ahead and, for example, create like the odd little random horizontal line, which could allude to the fact that there's like brickwork there perhaps. So you can just go ahead and create whatever you want down that edge even further, all the way down. Just a few horizontal lines here and there. Don't overthink it. I'm clearly not. I'm just sort of putting in some additional details. Here up at the very top, we'll add in some more. And in a similar fashion, we'll just create that curve-like shape, big curve, and then some horizontal lines to show the contour and curve of the peak up here. And maybe a little ledge like that, catching some moonlight, and maybe another ledge there too. Maybe some horizontal lines under there. And again, another one like here. And then let's see what else we can do. Maybe like another little line here. All of these edges you can see are on the right hand side facing our light source. You don't add anything to the left. You're not interested in doing that. And be sacrificial. Put this part of the castle just in the shade. It's perfectly fine to do so. You're just trying to add in some cool accents. And from there, you can equally go ahead and add in some like little curvy lines down here, wiggly wobbly lines for kind of the rocky cliff-like shape here. So you can just add in random little squiggles and wiggles here all the way in these kind of areas. And all you're doing is kind of telling the person looking at this that there's maybe a little bit of light landing on like a rock of some sort, like so. And then what we'll do is we'll bring this tree and this bit of land in front. So if I could zoom in, you can see where the land comes down. If I go ahead, for example, and I just create a wiggly line that does this, I immediately kind of say, hang on, that's now here. That's in front of us. It's not connected. This tree area here is in front. And then from there, I can go ahead and create sort of blades of grass, which are a much finer level of detail, but it tells us again that it's really close to here. And I can just keep adding in blades and blades and blades like this. Lots and lots of blades of grass, just to show that this area over here is quite, textured and detailed, and is got a lot of content that we can add in. Add in some larger ones as well, just to give it some variety. So just a little something like that, maybe a wiggly line across that kind of rock there, a little something. And then we're going to go up the tree. So for the tree, I'm going to make the brush size a bit bigger to 20 now. I'm going to go along that edge, up the tree, and you just want to accent a few areas of it, maybe even like a random sort of design of its sort of bark, etc., by creating these wiggly lines on the inside, maybe a little bit on the rear there. But don't do every single branch. You don't have to do that. I can zoom in, for example, and I can just catch a little bit of light on some of these areas at the top. And because some of them simply might just be facing away from the light. You don't have to add in every single area with a little bit of shine to it, a little bit of color. It's easily overdone, and you don't need to do it. Just take a look where your lines are and just see if there's any sort of random squiggles that you think look quite nice with a little bit of color. But again, be quite sacrificial. Just keep it to that left-hand side of the tree now, and just make sure to not overdo it. Maybe you could add in like a really cool, interesting, another little groove like that in the tree down at the base, maybe, just for some extra detail. Awesome. Let's go ahead, 3 dots and save, and let's get into the final set of lighting. Let's then add in one final glow to the center. So let's create a new layer. Let's then go to the layer and tap on it and unclip it. We don't want it clipped to our frame. We're going to go ahead and tap on this layer and change its blend mode from normal to the option of color dodge. We're then going to go to our brush. We want to change it to fills and solid fill. And you want to make sure your color is still the color top left of the palette. You then want to go to your tools in the top right. Let's go to shapes and circle. And then in the center, let's go ahead and drag out a circle, roughly to say around about this sort of size. And then tap on your circle tool when you're done. Then go to your edit option. Go to edit and filters, structure and blur. And you may need to do this multiple times, so just keep going, but up to 100% and hit the tick. And I'm going to do it again. I'm going to go edit. I'm going to go to the option of filters, structure and blur. And just going to keep blurring it out until I end up with this beautiful, nice, bright blue kind of center to the design. It makes it a little bit more sort of fantasy-like. I'm going to do it one more time. So filters, structure and blur. And then I'm going to just drag that out to 100%, just make sure it's nice and soft. And then when you're done, you can go ahead and turn off your grid. You can pinch with 2 fingers, you can go full screen with 4, and you end up with today's finished design. So I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. As always, make sure to tag me in your finished creations wherever you decide to share them. Subscribe to the channel for more cross-platform digital art tutorials. And if you want to go ahead and support me and all the work that I do here, you can hit the join button. You get early access to my content, as well as a loyalty badge beside your name that grows over time. And more importantly, I guess, you'd be supporting the work that I do here on the channel. So make sure to check that out again using the links in the description down below. And if you enjoyed this tutorial here on YouTube, you will love this one on the screen now. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.